Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Couch Potato Podcast. I am Russ. Lucas makes his triumphant return to the show this week, and him and I are going to discuss, is Joey Chestnut's current reign over the Nathan's hot dog eating contest the greatest dynasty in modern sports? Him and I are also going to talk a little bit about the USC UCLA move to the Big Ten. What does that mean for college football? What's the next big domino to fall in college football? Is Notre Dame going to join the Big Ten? Is the SEC going to start stealing schools from the ACC? Who knows? We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Also, maybe dive into a little bit of the Kevin Durant trade request over the last week. Talk a little money in the bank as well. So, after the guitar riff, the Couch Potato Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Couch Potato Podcast. My name is Russ, and joining me after a 1 week break, Lucas is back. Hey.
Woo!
What's going on, man?
Nothing. First off, I want to apologize. I was supposed to record that episode with you, but I kind of had I wouldn't call it a mental breakdown, but it was, as you know, and some of the listeners may know, I have severe anxiety and depression, and I'm raising two babies along with my girlfriend, one of our biggest fans, Tina, and I just got really, really overwhelmed and kind of had a little bit of a breakdown and was having a really bad emotional day, so I needed to take that day off. I really wanted to talk Obi-Wan with you guys, but I did listen to some of the episode, and you guys held it down. So,
all right. Well, hey, since you're on here now, what did you think of Obi-Wan?
I thought it was really good. I thought the first episode was really kind of I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't really like the first episode so much. And actually, I was talking to producer Adam about that. And he said, hang in there, wait till, episodes, I think he pointed to 3, 5, and 6 as the best episodes. And yeah, those fights between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan are just crazy good.
Yeah. Like I said, him and I really liked it. It really feels like Star Wars to me. It's the first time I've seen something in quite a while that feels like a Star Wars show. So,
yeah.
I got a lot of feedback after that episode. A lot of people gave me shit for not seeing Stranger Things yet.
Yeah, and like we just talked about off air, I'm not going to give you shit about not seeing Stranger Things. It is a really good show. I think you'll really like it. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's like a horror thing, but it's kind of like a mystery thing, and it's, a lot of throwback stuff to the 80s when you were a kid in the 80s, so
yeah,
I think a lot of the stuff you'll relate to.
Right. Well, I did run a poll question on our Twitter, which if you don't follow us on Twitter, I think you should. It's where we do most of our posting. Couch Bro Podcast, or at Couch Bro Podcast. I'm still getting used to that whole Twitter handle thing. Ran a poll question. Had you guys decide what show you wanted me to check out next, and I put Succession, HBO show. I put Stranger Things. I put The Boys, which you were telling me about over the weekend that I need to watch as well, and others. So if you had any recommendations that wasn't on that poll question, throw them out there. Always willing to check out new stuff. Had a tie between Succession and Stranger Things, so I'm going to start Stranger Things probably this week.
Yeah, I really think you're going to like it. Succession's really good too, which I think you said HBO. I think it's on Apple, isn't it?
No, Succession's on HBO.
Oh, the Succession. That's the
you're thinking
that's the
of
family business. I'm thinking of the
Severance.
Which
producer Adam's going to check out next, which that's actually what I've seen of that's pretty good too.
Yeah, sorry. We were talking about this before we came on. I haven't seen Succession. I've seen Severance.
Yep. Okay, yeah, it's easy to get them confused. Those S words, man, fuck with you. We are recording on the evening of the 4th of July. Lucas, how was your 4th of July weekend?
It's pretty good. Did a lot of swimming. Watched some fireworks. We hang out at Tina's aunt and uncle every 4th, and they have 20 acres of land, and it's just peaceful. And I had 6 fireworks shows last night that I could see either in the distance or down the street. So I had my choice of 360 degrees of fireworks.
This is the one time of the year that I wish Adam was on the show, because there's been a couple episodes where Adam's recorded inside of his car because his kids are trying to go to sleep. And with it being the 4th of July, I've teased him on occasion that it looks like he's reporting from like a war zone country, and to see those fireworks go off and watch him in this car, it would have fit the mood perfectly, and I don't have him on tonight.
Oh, man, yeah, that would have been perfect. Because, the city that we all, we'll just say we all live in. I don't live there anymore, but I'm close enough, and we know that people love their fireworks there.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like, I remember one year I was coming home from my mom's house, and there was literally like half of a block of just Roman candles and like those little the mortar shells and shit just like lined up down the street, people just launching them off. I'm like, I'm just gonna turn and go this way so I don't have to.
Oh Lord, Terry, what you doing, Terry?
I it's funny you said that. I actually showed that to my son today. I was like, dude, you gotta come over here and watch this. Back up, Terry, back up, Terry, what you doing, Terry?
Oh Lord, Terry. Yeah, that's a funny ass video.
Yeah. I know for me, busy weekend. My son had his baseball tournaments. My 11-year-old son, two-time champion of his league this year. They won the title for the second year in a row. Won the tournament and won the league. So job well done, Jackson, who has been on the show on occasion.
That's badass.
Yeah. Also today is the first lady of the Couch Potato Podcast, the lovely Jen's birthday today. So we went and celebrated birthday for a little bit today.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Yep. So there you go. Now the birthday's complete. You've gotten a happy birthday, buddy, from Lucas. And then 4th of July would not be complete without watching the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, which me and my son watched today. Because there's really nothing that's sports oriented on until the afternoon. So Joey Chestnut won his 15th mustard belt. He mowed down 63 Glizzies.
Now, I have to ask you, where the fuck did Glizzy come from? Because I hadn't heard that until a couple weeks ago.
I heard it about a year ago, or maybe a little longer than that, when I'll just come out and say it. Lucas and I used to be former employees at Best Buy. And the early days of the pandemic, we just did strictly a curbside model, where if you came up, you had to order something online, you could come pick it up in the store. But we were not letting people in. And our GM, before she lost her shit and became a crazy old bat, used to buy us food, and we could eat snacks. They would cook like lunch for us all. It was a really nice setup for a while. And former employee, we'll just call him James. He had said to our GM one day, he goes, "Hey, Tina, what's the ETA on those Glizzies?"
Yeah, well, he is a younger guy, so he's with all the hip new lingo.
Right. So I picked it up, kind of put it in the back of my head for a while, but then going to like my son's games, like his tradition is when he's done with his game, he always wants me to go buy him 2 hot dogs at the concession stand. So my daughter, like, we'll take her to the games a lot, and she wanted a hot dog one day, and I was trying to get her to eat it. And I said, "Hey, if you don't eat your hot dog, the Glizzy Goblin's going to come and take it." So now
I remember you telling me this.
So now she thinks a Glizzy Goblin's a real thing, and like she'll sit and eat her hot dog because she's afraid that the Glizzy Goblin's going to get it.
Nothing like getting a kid to eat other than fear.
That's right. Hey, like I got to do what I got to do. I did have a question, though, about Joey Chestnut. This is going to segue into our topic for the evening. We're going to talk a little sports. This is Joey Chestnut's 15th Mustard Championship. Is Joey Chestnut the greatest dynasty in modern sports?
I don't know about the greatest. Whatever happened to Kobayashi? Some controversy there or something?
I'm not sure. There's ESPN has a 30 for 30, and I think ESPN should start paying me, because I think this is like the second or third time in the last few weeks I've mentioned the 30 for 30 series. So ESPN, shoot me an instant message on our socials. I'll tell you where to mail the checks. But there's a 30 for 30. It's basically it details Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut. I haven't watched it yet. I probably should now that we're talking about the hot dog eating contest. But yeah, I don't know what happened to Kobayashi. I think he gave it up. I'm just going to look it up here real quick. I think he gave it up or... Okay.
See, I always remember him eating those and being like super dominant, and then all of a sudden this Joey Chestnut guy came out of nowhere, beat him, and then Kobayashi was nowhere to be seen after that.
I like Joey Chestnut's nickname. He's called Jaws.
It's fitting.
Let's see. It looks like he got kicked out of the Nathan's hot dog eating contest because he would not sign an agreement. Like, he basically didn't want to, like, sign an exclusive deal with Nathan's. It says that on June 28th, 2010, Kobayashi announced he would not compete in the Nathan's 4th of July hot dog eating competition, reportedly due to the company's insistence that he sign an exclusive contract.
So, if we're calling it the most dominant, I think it would have to be an asterisk, just because Kobayashi was just as dominant as he was.
Well, Joey Chestnut had beaten him a couple of years before. Like, Kobayashi was still competing when Joey Chestnut started his reign over the Nathan's hot dog eating competition.
Oh, I know, but I mean, Peyton Manning did also beat Tom Brady every once in a while.
That's true. But
and speaking of that, I would say probably Patriots, the Warriors over the last, God, how many years have they been fucking
this is
winning
their
championships?
I don't pretend to be a basketball aficionado. I probably will be soon. My son is taking a sudden interest in basketball now. He's been asking me like a bunch of questions about NBA stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Let's see. They've won. That was the one they just won was their 4th title since 2015.
Yeah, so that's pretty dominant considering all the super teams that are out there. I mean, he's got to be up there at least, because food eating contests there's some serious business. Mm-hmm. Now, I never really took it seriously. I just thought, oh, this is disgusting. There's a bunch of fat people eating nasty shit on TV, but they're not really fat.
Joey Chestnut's looks like he weighs less than I do.
I know, and it's crazy. Like,
you know what made his championship win today even more special? He played hurt.
Really?
And he had a broken ankle or something like that. They showed him had this gigantic cast on his foot. That's a true champion right there.
That's a champion.
Heart of a tiger.
And I don't know how they fucking do that. Like dunking hot dog buns in water and just having that soggy shit in your mouth. It's
fucking
gross.
disgusting. They were there was some dude that was dipping his bun in Gatorade to take. She's seen like red and pink like bread around his lips. It looked like he had thrown it up.
That's fucking gross.
I mean, like, I watch him because I think it's funny to see these guys just chug these hot dogs down. But it's also like, don't watch it when you're getting ready to go to dinner because it's fucking gross.
It is fucking gross.
Watching these dudes just plow into these glizzies like it's the end of the world. It just
plowing into glizzies reminds me of The Boys. There's an episode called Hero-gasm, and I can't wait till you watch that.
All right. Well, I promised the loyal fans of the show voted for Succession and Stranger Things first, but The Boys is coming. I think it's in my wheelhouse, so I'm going to check it out.
Well, you know how both of us feel about Carl Urban.
That's right. He is the man.
He is.
So we at least given Joey Chestnut a top 5.
Oh, yeah.
Top 5?
I mean, is that how you feel about it?
I think he's number 1.
Really? I don't know if I would give him number 1. I mean,
he's got
it is a dominant
15 championships.
That's true. But Ric Flair had 16. Just saying.
Well, that not in a row though. He's won for 15 years straight.
That's true.
That is a dominant run.
It is. And of course, I could never do it. So.
Well, why not? Let's get you started training.
Because I'm already chunky enough.
Like I said, man, Joey Chestnut probably weighs like 180 pounds. weight has nothing to do with it.
How the fuck do you even train to down a bunch of glizzies like that?
I'm sure there's a YouTube video out there, man. We'll get you started on it, man.
As long as it's not before dinner.
Well, let's find something first that'd be a little easier for you to eat besides hot dogs.
Yeah, true. Oh, by the way,
how about ribs?
I do like ribs.
Oh, that's gross. Watching like just people like take that bone and just suck the meat right off of it. I think that's fucking grosser than watching dudes eat hot dogs.
At the 4th of July party, I cooked on the grill for everybody. First time I've made that much food for, I think it was 35 people there.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and it all came out perfectly. I was impressed with myself.
Did you make you a slab of some bone-sucking ribs?
No. Made some burgers, some brats, some these things called Bahama Mamas, which I had never heard of. They're like a sausage thing.
Yeah, I've heard of them too. I think Schmidt's the world-renowned sausage restaurant in Columbus has those.
Yeah, that's where they came. They were from Schmidt's.
Okay, yeah. That's like a thing that they do.
A shit ton of hot dogs too.
Oh, you did. Fuck, you're already there, man. You should have started training.
Should have just ate all the packs of hot dogs.
All right. So, I will say the top 5 dynasties of the modern era. In no particular order, I think the Patriots, the Golden State Warriors, Joey Chestnut, the Alabama Crimson Tide run in college football.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay Lightning got to be in there, too, because they've been dominating the shit out of hockey.
Even though they lost.
They were still in the finals this year.
They were. It's crazy. My sister-in-law lives in Tampa. Her son is a big hockey player down there. He's, how old is he? 8, I think. He's big into hockey. Apparently down there in Tampa, there is a big hockey contingent, and you would never think that because it's hotter than shit down there. But they really love their hockey down there.
Which I find to be a little strange because they also have usually a very competitive baseball team, and they don't support the shit out of them at all. No,
nobody cares about the Rays, which it's time to put the devil back in front of it, by the way.
And maybe that's why they just like, you know what, you took the devil out of. Don't try to like put religion in our baseball. Just fucking put the devil back in the Rays. But yeah,
I want the devil in my baseball.
I think that team could move tomorrow and like nobody'd fucking care, which is sad. But I don't think Florida is really a baseball state, anyways.
Nah, because nobody cares about Miami either.
Yeah, and they've got 2 championships, and I mean, I know they had success in attendance. Like attendance was up for a while. Then like they got that brand new ballpark, which is an awesome ballpark. Derek Jeter even decided, you know what, owning this Miami team isn't for me. He got out of it.
Yeah, that's crazy. They have a fucking fish tank behind home plate. That's sweet.
Yeah, that Florida just does not like their baseball. I mean, football, I understand, but yeah. Hockey still is it blows my mind that they have a huge hockey base down there.
Yeah. And, it's kind of surprising to me that Miami is not more popular with baseball. The Cuban population and the Dominican population, which baseball is probably their number one sport in both of those countries. So it's surprising that they haven't caught on down there.
We went to a Rays game 3 years ago. Yeah, 2019, and I think maybe there was 3,000 people in the ballpark. I mean, granted, it was a Tuesday night.
Weren't they pretty good then, too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, there was like hardly anybody at the ballpark.
Well, I don't know. I got nothing.
Yeah,
we
bought
indoors.
I don't know. Well, I will say Tropicana is not the greatest place for baseball. But yeah, we bought cheap seats and we ended up moving down, got really good seats because like, shit, there's nobody here. Who cares?
Right. Ushers are probably like, thank God somebody's down here for us to talk to.
Young man, just go ahead and go on down. We don't give a fuck. I know originally I was going to do an episode, and AEW had their big Forbidden Door pay-per-view. I was going to talk about that. And, of course, John Cena came back on the following Monday. I was going to do an episode about that, but then I don't know what happened, but, man, Thursday just became a huge fucking sports day. Two big stories popped out. Was it Thursday when all that stuff went down? Because I know the two big stories of the week going into the weekend were Kevin Durant requested a trade out of Brooklyn, and then USC and UCLA joined the Big Ten. Is that Wednesday or Thursday?
Was it Thursday?
I know it wasn't Friday.
No, it wasn't. Okay, then it had to have been Thursday.
Yeah. So, I don't know what was the big story for you this week.
Well, it's got to be USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge deal. I mean, we talked about this. In football terms, that's USC is the biggest team in the Pac-12, like by far. I mean, Oregon obviously is a national contender a lot too, but they're not USC.
Right.
They don't quite have. I don't think they quite have the history of a USC. And then I reminded you about the basketball side of it, which that's a big get for the Big Ten. Now, I mean, UCLA hasn't been obviously the championship winning team that they used to be, but they have all that history. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this was kind of a direct response to Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC, which I think that starts in 2024 too, right?
Yep, same year.
I don't know, so, like, what are you thinking about this, man? Good move, bad move, indifferent about it?
I think it's kind of necessary for these schools. I don't know that I necessarily like it because I do like the tradition of college football, and I think this takes away from it a little bit. But you know, these teams, it's all about money. These kids are making money now. They're making millions, just like the coaches are. So the schools obviously want to make sure that they're still making a shit ton of money. And the Big Ten, they get like, $1 billion a year from Fox? Something close
that.
to $1 billion.
Yeah.
So,
and I think
one of those,
I think that TV deal's getting ready to is up for negotiation here. And I think before 2024.
And just imagine how much more money now that you have USC and UCLA, because now you have the West Coast market. You already have New York with Rutgers, and you got Ohio State, which Ohio State is the Big Ten. If Ohio State leaves the Big Ten, that conference mostly loses its relevance, which sounds funny to say because you got USC in there now. You got Michigan, which they did really well last year, but you know, it's kind of a drop in the hat type deal. After those two, I mean, who you got? You got Nebraska and Wisconsin. Nobody gives a shit about those two schools.
I just looked it up real quick. The Big Ten Fox / NBC or ABC ESPN deal runs through the 2022-2023 season, and each school gets a $31.4 million cut of that deal.
And I guarantee you it's going to go up. I would not be shocked if each school gets somewhere in the region of $60 million after a new deal.
You know, it wouldn't surprise me at all because I think like sports is the only thing that like you can't DVR sports.
Right.
So I mean it's big business. I mean advertisers are going to throw a shit ton of money at them. You know, like I think it's a necessity, but I don't like how college football is going. Like you said, it's the tradition is starting to fade away. I mean, like I remember growing up as a kid, the Rose Bowl was always a big deal at my house because it's always the Big Ten versus the Pac-10.
Yeah,
and like I mean, I'll get to Oregon and like Washington and some of those other schools here in a minute, but like that's not going to be the same thing anymore.
No, and I think the most surprising thing, and I watched a clip today of the Pat McAfee show where they were talking about this, and obviously they were talking to AJ Hawk because he went to Ohio State, so he would have some insight, you know. about what that would be like in the Big Ten. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 have had this relationship since, the 90s, where they were, or the 80s or whatever, where they were Rose Bowl partners, and the Big Ten just poached the two biggest schools from the Pac-12.
Well, I mean, the Rose Bowl, the tradition of that goes back a lot further than that. It used to be every year those were the two teams that played were the Big Ten champion and then the Pac-10 champion. So it goes back much further than the 80s. I mean, in the 60s, it used to be USC versus normally Ohio State or Michigan every year.
Yeah, so it's those schools playing each other on a regular basis. It's kind of a big deal.
Actually, their relationship goes back a lot further than that. They used to play each other in the 60s all the time. I know it used to be USC versus Ohio State or Michigan every year.
Yeah, so I guess tradition-wise, you kind of get those schools playing each other, but I don't know. It's moving towards, we're not going to have a Power 5, we're going to have a Power 4 now, and then maybe eventually a Power 3.
I honestly think it's going to be more of a Power 3 because, I mean, really, the Big 12 is not really going to be relevant anymore. They lost their two biggest schools, which Texas and Oklahoma are arguably like if the Big 10 lost Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, this move had to do with the response to that. Mm-hmm. I mean, because if you think about it, when Oklahoma plays Alabama or when Texas plays Alabama or LSU or, any of those big schools play, Texas or Oklahoma, in those first couple of years, that's going to be like a giant spectacle. It's going to be, holy shit, they're playing each other. There's not going to be a bigger game on TV. I mean, maybe when Ohio State plays USC, might compete numbers-wise, but for sure that's going to be the biggest college football game of that night.
Mm. Well, if I'm not mistaken, too, just even Texas in general, I think Texas athletics are like the biggest money maker in collegiate sports, period.
They are, and they just got
they have their own network, for crying out loud.
It's true, they do. I think Ohio State, if they really wanted to, if they hadn't, they try to integrate themselves into the Big Ten. I think they could have their own channel too. I don't think Ohio State is as big as Texas. Up here to us it is, but we're not. For the rest of the country, I think Texas is still viewed as a bigger collegiate school as far as football goes. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy where college football is going.
Well, I mean, like the thing I'm hating seeing more. I mean, I've been a huge college football fan since I was a kid. I actually, for the longest time, preferred college over the NFL because, I mean, as big as college football was, it was still kind of regional. Like if you were in the Midwest, you were typically a fan of a Big Ten team, and you hated everybody else around you. If you grew up in the South, you were typically rooting for like an SEC school. Out West, you're rooting for most likely USC, Oregon, and like now, I don't know, like college football is starting to go more towards like what the NFL is.
Which, I mean, if you think about it, the stadiums are bigger. They, obviously don't make as much money, but they're like you said, they're trending that way. Mm-hmm. One of these days, they may be as big as the NFL.
Well, I don't know if they'll be as big as the NFL, but they could be like the second biggest revenue generator for a network, or like at least maybe not a revenue generator, but like the amount of money that they're pulling in is probably going to be only trumped by the NFL.
Yeah, that's true. As wrestling fans, this kind of reminds me of when Vince McMahon started buying up all the territories. Mm-hmm. Wrestling used to be a territorial thing, and you had the Mid-South, you had NWA, you had
AWA,
WWF. You had all the, and like hell, even the Canadian Stampede wrestling. And then Vince McMahon started buying all of them. Mm-hmm. and it became a national thing, which it is now. That's what it almost feels like. It went from like a regional wrestling thing to a national wrestling,
Right. And that's why I don't think – I think what's eventually going to happen is – well, let me ask you, like, what do you think is, like, on the horizon? Like, do you think that, like, the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are going to survive?
I wouldn't be surprised if they combined eventually.
And created their own, like, the third – like, a big super conference on their own?
Yeah, because, I mean, as it is now – the ACC has Clemson, and that keeps them going, and Miami, which Miami looks like, with the NIL being available and them able to give money to recruits, Yeah,
it's like, man, if they only started doing that shit about 20 years earlier, man, the U would still be relevant today. Right.
And now they're starting to get recruits, so they're coming back. So, and Miami is a big time, like big time college football program. They just haven't been relevant because they got busted for paying their kids, with hookers and cocaine.
Well, I think the first big domino, or the next big domino to fall, is what happens with Notre Dame.
Yeah, and I read, and I'm sure you read the story, is, the Big Ten is thinking about asking Washington and Oregon to join, but they're waiting on Notre Dame.
Well, actually, what I read is Oregon and Washington are considering joining the Big Ten, but the Big Ten is putting everything else on hold till they find out what's going on with Notre Dame.
Okay. Well, and once again, Notre Dame should have been in the fucking Big Ten since the 90s anyway. But they make all that money from NBC. Obviously, it's a business thing on their end. It's nothing to do with, not necessarily wanting to be in the Big Ten. But in order for them to play another championship game, in my opinion, they're going to have to be in one of these super conferences, because if they keep playing in the ACC, it's not going to matter, because you're not going to put them in over a Big Ten, an SEC, or a Big 12 champion. You know what I mean? And if there's an at-large Alabama, they're getting in before Notre Dame too.
Well, I mean, I don't think, or let me put it to you like this. I think personally, if Notre Dame still remains an independent, which I don't see them doing that, because I think they're going to go where the money's at, and I don't think NBC, like the appeal of it, like an NBC deal as an independent, is going to eventually work out in their favor. Because I think eventually they're going to get left out now. But, damn it, I forgot where I was going with that. But I think with Notre Dame, I think they eventually have to join a conference, just because I think what you said, they're going to get swallowed up. Although, saying that though, I think I would put them in to a playoff over like a Big 12 conference champion. Because I honestly, I don't think now that Oklahoma and Texas are gone, I don't think there's anybody in the Big 12 that's really warrants being like, oh, that's one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the country. No.
Well, yes, but Cincinnati is starting to be looked at differently too now, and they're going to be playing in the Big 12, and they're picking up big time recruits. So it could be that Cincinnati could be in over an independent. Because as much as like the Big 12 is losing its relevance with, you and I necessarily, maybe nationally with some of these guys that vote on the committee, it may not be losing all of its relevance. You know what I mean?
Oh, I think actually there's a tons of stories out now like the Big 12's dead.
Oh, well.
And I think the teams are eventually going to start getting swallowed up. And I've even seen stories like, well, does like the teams that are joining after Oklahoma and Texas leave, are they going to jump ship and join somebody else now? Or
wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me. The thing that really surprises me about this whole deal is imagine on the schedule, you've got USC versus Rutgers. That's literally Los Angeles to New York.
Right.
That's a long fucking trip.
I think the Big Ten would be better served now they got those two West Coast teams that they keep their schedules more like regional based, because you and I were discussing like basically they're probably just going to split them in half, and the eastern portion of it's going to be like Rutgers, Maryland, Ohio State, Michigan State,
Penn
State,
Purdue,
and Purdue and Indiana, right?
Yeah, so we're split right there at
basically
the Indiana-Illinois border.
Yeah, then everything past Indiana would be the West region, and I think they would be better served doing that, and then maybe scheduling like, because that's 7 games right there. Just when you schedule like the conference games, and then peppering in like, okay, just to have the marquee matchups. Okay, UCLA is going to play Ohio State and Ohio State, but like don't do that game every year. I'm sure USC and USC Michigan, USC Ohio State, USC Penn State will probably be a yearly game. I think there's too much money on the table for it not to be.
Yeah, that'll be a rotating thing. I imagine in the first year they'll start with Ohio State against USC, then Michigan against USC, then Penn State against USC, and then they'll come back. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be a rotation of those 3 schools.
Right. Now, I think I'm beginning to wonder, like, if Notre Dame decides to join the Big Ten, like, does the SEC start poaching some of these schools from the ACC?
First one to go would be Clemson, I would think.
Yeah, I think Clemson or Miami, I think would assuredly be one of the first 2 to go.
So then it just comes down to what, two super conferences? Because once Clemson leaves the ACC, they're dead.
Well, that's the same with Miami. I think Miami leaves, they're dead too. And even to a lesser extent, Florida State. I mean, they're still a marquee money-generating program, even though they're kind of like Miami. They haven't been relevant in a while, but they're still a big school. And then essentially it's those 3, then the scraps of the ACC. And then, I mean, you got to look at basketball too when you were talking about UCLA earlier. I mean, Duke and North Carolina are going to get some play because, there's still big basketball schools.
Which it wouldn't surprise me if the Big Ten came after them, Mm-hmm. I don't know. Another question that popped to mind when we were talking about this is, does the Big Ten championship game stay in Indianapolis?
I've heard
move further west, or
I've seen some rumor. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, that it's going to rotate, and SoFi could be hosting it one year. I think the days of it being in Indianapolis on a yearly basis are probably done. Yeah. Simply because you've got UCLA and USC now.
And I think Oregon and Washington will be in there too. I think in 2024 they join as well.
Oh, you think?
I think Notre Dame joins. Actually, Notre Dame's probably going to do some dick move like they always fucking do and go like ACC. And then Washington and Oregon is going to, because I don't know what it is about Notre Dame, but they resist. Like, I know they have the contract with NBC, but they resist the Big Ten as much as they can. I mean, fuck, they had the traditional game of Michigan against Notre Dame. That thing went on for, 100 years? Close to 100 years? And they just dropped it because they wanted to go play games exclusively against the ACC.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
and Michigan State and Notre Dame. And it's like, what the fuck, guys? I understand that some traditions are going to die. Like Ohio State doesn't play only noon games anymore. Mm-hmm. Which I like that. I never thought that it should always be a noon thing, because Ohio State's bigger than just noon games. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, just traditional games against an opponent should stay. That'd be like if Ohio State and Michigan stopped playing each other, and that's just, you can't have that.
Right. When you talk about tradition, as long as they keep Ohio State, Michigan on at noon, that game should be played at noon. I didn't like it when they did the 3:30 matchup that one year, but I understand it was 1 versus strange. 2 that year.
Which, why would you do a 3:30 and not an 8?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is what it is. That game was awesome.
Right. So I mean, it sounds like me and you were kind of in the same boat. Like, I think this is going to lead to just 2 gigantic super conferences battling it out every year. And I think everybody else is just – I really think what's going to happen to college football, and I think this is going to be sooner much rather than later now, is you're going to have 2 super conferences, a southern branch, which would be essentially the SEC, then you're going to get the northern, Midwest, West Coast now, which would be the Big Ten. And I think they're going to create their own subdivision, and they don't really need anybody else. I mean, honestly, every network that has sports is going to be throwing gobs of money at them to get their football rights, and they don't need like the scraps of the Pac-12 or the Big Ten. I think it's just going to be one of those things where it's those 2 super conferences. Then you're going to get another, kind of like how they have the subdivisions of NCAA football now. We got 1A right. And all that, and then like everybody else is going to be playing in their own conference. And then it's going to be, trickle down after that. The thing that I'm really going to be, I think I'm going to hate the most out of all this is what's going to happen to the bowl games, the tradition of the bowl game.
Yeah, because
I don't think it's going to last once this new frontier of college football starts.
It might, because to me personally, there's too many bowl games.
I think
so too. 67 or some shit last year.
There's a ton.
It's too many. I could see like at the super conferences, maybe you have your mid-level teams playing each other, all the way up to your top 4 teams. So you have your top 2 from your North Conference, Big Ten, your top 2 from your South Conference, the SEC, being kind of a playoff thing.
Or do they keep like the Big 6 bowl games and do like they try to work out something with like these super conferences to where, okay, we'll partner with you guys and you guys can just bring all your teams to just play in our games, and then the rest of the bowl games are just kind of.
Yeah, that's probably what will end up happening. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with a playoff when there's 2 conferences, because I think that's where it's going. If it's not 2, then it's 3, but more than likely 2 conferences. And
I think you'll see the expansion of the playoff series after that.
Oh yeah, I mean you have to, but it's just how would you do that? Is it top 4? Because they won't go any further than 8, I wouldn't think.
No,
8 teams in a playoff.
No, well, I had read something. I forget who wrote it, but the commissioner of the Pac-12 voted down expanding the current college football playoff system, and I think that they said that's effectively what caused USC and UCLA to bolt for the Big Ten, and I think the Big 12 commissioner had done that prior, and that's what triggered Oklahoma and Texas leaving. Yeah, is the fact that there's not all these, there's not more room in the playoffs for these teams, and they're kind of getting left out all this big money, and it's like, well, why are we going to stick around here? You guys don't want this. We're going to go where the money's at.
Which is crazy. You would think that they would want to, because both those conferences were on the verge of getting into the playoffs and got left out by, a slim margin.
Mm-hmm.
Several times. It wasn't even just once, it was several times. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems like it's moving to a couple super conferences, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in 10 years, college football will not look anything like it did when you and I were kids. I don't even think it'll look like it does anything. Like, it won't look anything like it did like 5 years ago. Well, it won't. I mean, like, the Big 12 will effectively be a shell of itself. The Pac-12 will be a shell of itself.
Yeah, but it's like the Woo said, cash rules everything around me.
Yep, I dig that reference. Dollar bill, y'all.
Dollar bill, y'all.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like where it's going, and I mean, it really I think it's just going to lose what makes it different from the NFL. And honestly, if it's going to be the same product as the NFL, I'm just going to devote my time to the NFL and Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to waste my time watching Oklahoma and Alabama play because, like, what's the fucking point? I mean, I can watch this game in 2 years when, like, all these guys from Oklahoma and Alabama are playing in the NFL anyways.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what it is now.
Well, I mean, no, like, I look forward to these big, like if, say, like, Oklahoma's playing Georgia, like, okay, I'm going to watch it. That's appointment TV for me. Yeah. Or if, like, Alabama's playing, like, USC. Like, okay. I mean, if UFC's got a good team, I mean, USC's kind of hit and miss here lately. But, if that were, like, a game, both those teams were, like, in the top 10, oh, yeah, count me in. I'm fucking watching that game. But now it's, if things change, like, I don't really care.
Yeah, it's – a lot of traditions are changing, and I like the channel, but I have to blame them anyway. I think this all started with ESPN. They started this shit with Major League Baseball. You know how I feel about that. Like I've said this several times. The Cincinnati Reds are the original Major League Baseball team. They should be the first game every year of Major League Baseball. Mm-hmm. That's how it was for almost 100 years, if not 100. I don't know the time frame, and then ESPN started throwing money at MLB, and they changed it to now there's like 3 games on at the start of the year, and Cincinnati wasn't even one of them. They didn't even fucking start at home this year, which I don't even know.
Well, that's a little different because they decided to. Owners and the players fought it out, and
but I mean, even in a lockout year before, right? The Reds still started off at home as the first game.
Well, I mean, when they locked out before, it was like they played an abbreviated schedule. This time around, they're playing 162 games, but if they did that, it would have totally fucked the whole schedule up by basically shifting everything back. Because then you're moving the playoffs back, you're moving the World Series back. And as someone who's played baseball in cold weather, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's funny to me that they play the World Series in October, especially if there's a Midwest team that makes it there.
Right.
Like the fucking, like Minnesota, they play outside. Mm-hmm. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they probably know, like, Minnesota. The Twins aren't going to the World Series for a while.
But if they do.
But, yeah, like them shifting that back would have caused, like, just chaos with the scheduling. So now I think they just – because most of the teams now, like, when they start the year, they're usually playing divisional rivals anyways. So, okay, like, most likely you're going to be playing a team that you're going to play, like, 6 or 8 more times during the year anyways. So we'll just schedule like a doubleheader in between to kind of make up the difference because they only lost like a week of the season. But yeah, no, it sucks. And I mean, too, like I heard an interview with Dana White. It was actually when you talked about Pat McAfee earlier. He was on Pat McAfee's show. I think it was like a 2 months ago. He was talking about how like the money that these networks throw towards sports now is just insane. And I think a lot of it had to do with the pandemic and how much people missed sports when we didn't have them. I mean, I was one of them. I was so excited for The Last Dance. Like I treated that like it was Game 7 of the World Series.
I remember you got really excited about that.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was that and the NFL draft were the only sports we got until UFC started running the fights on Fight Island. And it's a very valid point now. It's just like, okay, the appetite for live sports has just increased tenfold since the pandemic. And it's like these sports institutions are stupid to leave that money on the table.
Yeah, and fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, you have Disney, who owns ABC, ESPN, and they're bankrolled by billion-dollar movies that they make. So they have unlimited cash flow that they can, plus, sponsors that they can just throw at the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC. They have an ACC channel and a Longhorn Network channel and an SEC Network channel. So those are just dedicated to those conferences and those specific teams. So it's unlimited. I mean, Marvel movies make billions of dollars. That alone can be a contract for 2 or 3 years with a school.
Well, I mean,
or with a conference.
Two, you're also getting into the streaming world, where these streamers are now starting to get in the. I mean, Amazon's going to have NFL games for the first time ever. They're going to be the exclusive home of the Thursday night game.
Yeah.
And next, the NFL Sunday ticket package is up, and I've seen something like that's going to go for a crazy amount.
$2 billion a year is what I saw.
I seen 3.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter because Apple has more money than any country in the world.
Yeah, and I've seen that the Apple, which now they're starting to get into the sports streaming stuff. They've got they do baseball, like Major League Baseball games every Friday night.
Yep.
I think they signed something with the MLS too, didn't they?
They did. They signed I can't remember the number, but it's a 10-year deal. Every single MLS game will be on there. No blackouts. They're going to have studio shows. They're going to have pregame and postgame shows. Special other shows, that's me being a soccer fan, me being an MLS fan. That's a big deal. It's a good deal. And it's geared more towards the younger crowd, which Apple gears themselves towards too. Mm-hmm. So it's an all around good deal for them, but it's a lot of money being thrown at them. I think it's close to $1 billion.
Right, and I think as these contracts start expiring, you start seeing these streamers. I mean, I know Netflix lost a shit ton of money. What was that? This last quarter, and I would be shocked if they didn't get into some kind of sports streaming at some point too. I mean, yeah, there's Google's probably going to get into it. So, I mean, puts YouTube in play. I mean, just the sky's the limit with his money, and I think it's just going to get, these leagues are going to get more and more money, and it's going to, I think, rip tradition out the window. Like, truth be told, if you and they said, hey, like we did this, we usually release our show every Tuesday. And we've been doing this show for years. Every Tuesday, all of our listeners get counted out. But if like somebody throws a shit ton of money at me and says, hey, we want your show. We like what you're doing. Yeah, right. We know that's a pipe dream. But, somebody's going to throw a shit ton of money at us. And but we need you to put this out on Friday nights. Like, all right. My books
Honestly,
are clear.
If anybody throws any money at me, I'm changing the day.
Oh, yeah. If I'm getting a couple grand a month, you got to do it on Monday. All right. Well, Lucas, every Sunday night, you and I are going to be doing this, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I'm curious to see what happens. I think I'm of the belief, I don't think this is the end of the team shifting before college football season starts. I think there's a good chance, that's in a month and change.
Yeah, it's at the end of August, right?
Yeah, college football usually, my son was asking me this, college football usually kicks off Labor Day weekend, and then the NFL starts that Thursday. At least that's how it usually is.
Some of the smaller schools start
before,
at the end of August, yeah.
I mean, I'm not watching Liberty versus Lehigh.
Not watching any MAC schools.
No, sorry, Mac. You guys, I like the cut of your jib, but I'm not watching you on TV.
Yeah, it's it's everything's money. Mm-hmm. It used to be that everybody shunned money for tradition, or at least they put the money towards tradition. Now it's it is what it is. It's whoever can make the most money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this shakes out. I mean, I'm kind of curious about it. Maybe I could be proven wrong, and I think it makes college football better, but I don't know. I think college football loses a lot of its charm. Plus, it's going to make playing NCAA 2023 or 24 whenever it comes out. It's going to be a little weird too.
It'll be July of 23.
I haven't gotten much into the video games since I've had my kids, but that was always like my go-to. Like, I played the shit out of that game every fucking year when it came out.
Yeah, we used to have tournaments at my sister's house.
Yeah, I remember that Scorpion woman of an ex-wife of yours. I beat her with a Hail Mary at the end of the game too.
She was so pissed. She didn't talk to me for like 2 days, like it was my fault.
Yep. I am the catalyst for Lucas and his ex-wife getting a divorce.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you.
Hey, that Hail Mary is very symbolic.
It really is.
But hey, before we wrap this up, is there any other stories caught your eye this week? I mean, I kind of wanted to touch on Durant requesting a trade out of Brooklyn, but I mean, we're almost out of time, so.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's always jumping ship. It doesn't fucking, like, he's never happy anywhere he is.
Yeah, I'd seen Miami and Phoenix are the front runners, but Phoenix is not going to give up Devin Booker, which I don't blame him. I wouldn't give up Devin Booker for Kevin Durant either, because it basically like, okay, it doesn't really make you any better.
Kevin Durant's getting older, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
getting up there.
But I'd still say
he's still a good player. But
I'd still say he's one of the top 5 players in the league.
I wouldn't be shocked if he went to Miami. I mean, just for the life he could live down there.
Well, I mean, I've seen Golden State is also kind of in the background too as a possible suitor. I mean, they've got the players to offer to get him. I mean, they could put together a nice little package for him and still not really like lose a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA is kind of going the way of college football restructuring. You know, you have these few super teams, and then there's the rest of them.
Well, I mean, yeah, but really, though, the last few years, though, in the NBA, super teams really haven't won the titles. I mean, last year was the Bucks. They've got arguably the best player in basketball. At least I think Giannis is a fucking force of nature. That dude is phenomenal to watch. And usually if I see a Bucks game on TV, I'll watch a little bit of it just to watch him. But, I mean, even Golden State this year, they won the title. And I know some people think they're a super team, but they drafted Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Those guys weren't like big free agents that came over to win a title. Those all homegrown guys that they produced. I mean, they were a super team when they got Durant. But, I mean, like even guys like Jordan Poole and Looney and Gary Payton's son, those are all guys they drafted. They just draft really well.
Yeah.
I mean,
they do.
And, like, I mean, the Lakers, they kind of won with they won the bubble title with LeBron and Anthony Davis. They haven't done anything since then. They've been a huge disappointment. Brooklyn got Kyrie and Durant. Now they're breaking them two up. Neither one of them want to be there anymore.
I saw a story that LeBron is probably in the last year or two of his career, and he's talking about going back to Cleveland and finishing there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know, I actually like LeBron. I had a period where I hated him. I just hated the way he left Cleveland. Like, I think
it was pretty shitty.
I think the special you could have done without that, especially that city. If you're going to leave Cleveland, don't do it that way. If he was leaving, like, I don't know, the Bulls to go to Miami, like, okay, do the TV special. The Bulls got 6 titles. They've never had, like, a run like that. But, yeah, to do that to the fucking city of Cleveland was awful. And I hated him for that. But then he came back to Cleveland, like, okay, LeBron, it's like, that friend that you have a falling out with, like you fucking hate their guts for like a couple of years, and then like, hey man, like I was a dickhead. Let's try to patch this up, be friends again. It's like, hey, bring it in, man. Giving LeBron the big bro hug. Everything's cool with me after that.
Yeah.
And then he went to LA, and I'm like, I don't even care he left Cleveland. Like, I'm a huge Lakers fan, so like, oh shit, he's going to LA? Perfect. But
I don't think anybody was really mad the second time he left.
No, because he brought Cleveland
he
a
didn't
championship.
do a fucking special.
Right. But
one story I did want to touch on real quick. We talked about it before. Deshaun Watson's case, I believe, has wrapped.
They don't think they're going to have a decision about that till around the 14th.
So about a week from now.
Mm-hmm.
Or a little over a week, 10 days. So we'll see what happens with my team. There's a lot of stories since I'm a Browns fan. There's a lot of stories in Cleveland right now that people think that the Browns organization should convince Baker Mayfield to play.
I am one of those people. I think you got to try to mend fences with him, because I think he gives you the best shot at winning if you play the whole year without him.
Wouldn't that be fucked up if he won the Super Bowl with them?
Oh, I would love to hear that press conference.
Because he's not staying after this year. Like, there's zero chance. So if he wins him a Super Bowl, and then I think the Haslams will be able to own that team after that. I think there would be such a backlash after that the Haslams would be chased out of town, which the Crew fans, the Columbus Crew fans, are trying to get them out of ownership too, because of the Roe v. Wade. They came out and said it's a political issue. We're not going to get involved in it, and that has pissed the Crew fans off to a point where they didn't even bring in their drums or any of the normal stuff they do to a normal game.
Wow.
And they had a big protest. Like, they didn't have any of their signs. They had a big protest at the game yesterday. So plus they changed the logo, which pissed the fans off. So the Haslams are not doing too hot in Cleveland or Columbus right now.
Yeah. Just sell the teams. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm surprised. I guess it makes sense. Like, it should be a learning lesson. Like, no matter how much goodwill you buy yourself, like, you can make a decision that'll have people turn on you in an instant,
Yeah. I mean, it's some of the decisions they're making are they're not popular. They don't know their audience. Like, Columbus is a very progressive, liberal city. Mm-hmm. And so, when things come out that are not viewed, I'm trying not to make this political, but it is political with them. When they're not viewed in the nicest of lights with the progressive liberals, it's protest city. So,
mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's why I have always been of the opinion, own a team, just be the person that, like, okay, I'm paying the bills, I'll put you in charge, just make sure you're doing the job and making sure that, like, I'm making money on this. I don't need to be changing the fucking logo. I don't need to be, hands-on and, like, okay, I know we have this quarterback, had a horrible year, played hurt, but let's just bring in this guy who's got multiple sexual misconduct cases against him. Let's just go ahead and bring that guy on in. I'm gonna guarantee him $250 million.
Yeah, I got nothing. Like, I'm glad that they're trying to win a championship for the Browns. I don't know. Like, go after somebody, like, go after a Russell Wilson. Throw everything at him. Throw $250 million at him. He's got he's got no horrible track record like that. Better player. And they had I'm sure they had the opportunity. Fuck all the draft picks they gave up. They could have given them to Seattle for Russell Wilson.
I think from what I read, though, I think Denver was working Green Bay and Seattle, and I think they're basically waiting to see what Aaron. I personally think they already had something close with Denver, anyways, or with Seattle, in the event that Aaron Rodgers decided he wanted to stay in Green Bay. So I think Aaron Rodgers was the first choice, and then it's funny that deal went down not even an hour after Aaron decided he was staying in Green Bay. It's like, okay, Aaron's staying in Green Bay. Hey, Denver, this is Seattle. I'm sure they don't call each other like that, but it's like, hey, we got a deal. All right.
Yeah. No, these deals take weeks, so they had that planned out.
Yeah, I think they had that on the back burner. The only thing I had real quick is WWE Money in the Bank was this weekend. I watched that on Saturday night. WWE continues to amaze me how they do something right and then they turn around in the same fucking show and just completely screw shit up.
I didn't see it. What'd they do?
Well, first off, the Usos and the Street Profits wrestled in a tag team match. Probably one of the best tag team matches of the year. Wow. It was really good. Montez Ford did this move I've never seen, where he jumped over the turnbuckle post, jumped over that, and did like a swanton onto the Usos and his partner. It wasn't like one of those things where he jumped onto the top rope from the ring. He jumped from the ring over the post onto the floor. But the first match of the night, Liv Morgan won the Money in the Bank, which I watched some of their stuff, and she's one of the reaction she gets from the crowd, she should be a lot more successful than she is. And they let her win Money in the Bank, and then she cashed in and beat Ronda and won the title.
Okay.
I thought it was a really cool moment. Like, okay, that's you finally listening to the people. And then the main event of the men's Money in the Bank, they added Austin Theory to the match, which he had lost earlier in the night to Bobby Lashley. And then he's maybe in the ring 3 minutes, and then he ends up winning Money in the Bank. And I was like,
yeah, I think they're trying too hard with Austin Theory. I think they're trying too hard to make him a heel, make everybody hate him, which I think he just naturally draws heat. I don't think you have to, force it.
I think they got the right guy. I just think they're doing it too soon.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the pay-per-view, when we've mentioned Pat McAfee on this show a couple times, they set up a match for SummerSlam now between him and Baron Corbin. And then Pat McAfee took Baron Corbin's finishing maneuver, got laid out. And then I seen a picture the next day of it's Vince, Stephanie, Triple H, and Pat McAfee at UFC 276.
Sure. I'm not sure.
I think that was the newest pay-per-view. But Pat McAfee's got his tank top on, and he's got a neck brace selling the injury. I was like, this is fucking this guy gets it.
Now that's awesome. I'm good with that. Yeah.
And then Israel, what's the fighter's name?
Oh, yeah.
Israel Adesanya came out and did the Undertaker entrance, which I thought was super cool. I mean, that was kind of it. That's kind of what I wanted to touch base on real quick. But
let me just say one more point. Montez Ford is Bianca Belair's husband. Mm-hmm. But he'll have to go to AEW to be a world champion. And I think he's talented enough, and I think he's good enough on the mic that he should be a champion. But he's not Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar or Cody Rhodes or Seth Rollins. Those are the four that are going to hold the title for the next 2 years or whatever. So I think he'll have to go to an AEW to be recognized for his talent.
Well, I mean, they got to split him up from the Street Profits first.
which they're going to, and they're going to fuck it up like they always do. And he'll be a singles guy, and he'll probably win the Intercontinental Championship. And he may even have a world title match, but he's going to lose it, and they're going to dump him down. He's going to be a mid-card. I've seen it a million times.
Well, I mean, in defense of that, though, have you ever seen a time where a tag team, a big tag team, splits up and then the feud is actually awesome? The only one that comes to mind that was decent was when Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty split up. But outside of that, I can't think of.
Well, I thought the DX split was pretty good too in the early 2000s when Triple H and Shawn Michaels, like when Shawn Michaels came back and they were feuding.
Well, I don't know. Like I guess like that took a long time though to get to that point though, because Shawn Michaels had to leave for a while.
Well, I don't mind a slow burn. If it comes back, and it's a good if it's a good story, like I don't mind that.
Slow burn, that's a fucking slow burn for sure. That's like since we're recording this on the 4th of July, I'm just gonna make a quick 4th of July joke. It's like the snake. Just like snake, and it just slowly turns into like from that little brick to like the ash snake, which those things fucking suck.
Yeah.
Which real quick, the Mrs. 4th of July shirt was basically it was a tie-dye red, white, blue shirt. It had the whole listing of the fireworks that Joe Dirt asked if the guy had at the fireworks stand.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was pretty
awesome.
All right, well, Lucas, I think we've ran over a little bit, but I just want to say awesome to have you back. And we should do this again. I don't know, maybe next week.
Yeah, hopefully, mentally I stay stable enough.
Yeah, we'll plan for next week.
Sounds good.
All right, well, thanks.
I will do my best to be there.
All right, well, thanks for listening, everybody. We will talk to you next Tuesday. And that will do it for today's episode. We hope you guys and gals enjoyed what you heard. Be sure to follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to get all the latest show updates. If you did like what you heard today, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We drop episodes each and every Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single episode of the Couch Potato Podcast. So until next Tuesday, we will talk to you guys later.